This is a story some of you probably heard before, but I just really like it. I call it the elephant parable. There was an elephant that was a beautiful elephant because he was white, just pure white. And he had a good master, and he did all the things that the elephants had to do. So the master was traveling through the country, and they were going through the land of the blind. Now in this land, they had never had an elephant come through. And everyone was excited, and they called their leaders and their teachers out so that they could examine and learn about this animal, which everyone knew as the king of the beasts because he was so big, but also wise and gentle. So the learned leaders and teachers came to where the elephant was. Now, they were blind, so they had to touch the elephant. So one touched the big leg. Another one touched the long trunk. Another one touched the tail. A couple got around the whole big belly. And one touched those long, smooth tusks. And then after the elephant was gone, the leaders gathered all the other blind people together, and they were waiting to hear about the elephant and what it looked like. So the first man came out and said, "Oh, it has a big, tall column, like a thick snake." And another one said, "No, it's a medium snake." Now the first one had touched the legs, the second one had touched the tail. And a third one came and said, "No, you're both wrong. It's big and round like a barrel." And another one said, "No, you're totally wrong. It's smooth and comes to a tapered end." And they began to argue and make accusations and criticisms and complaints and call each other heretics and confused. And they started getting different people of the blind people to support one and to support the other. And next thing you knew, they had all these different types of elephant schools explaining exactly what an elephant was from each of their perspective. And each of them, of course, was telling the truth as they knew it. But the master of the elephant eventually heard of this controversy, and he felt kind of sad because he knew they were blind, and even though they were supposed to be the wise leaders and teachers, they had failed to use their wisdom to consult with the master who had eyes, who could have told them that the most wonderful thing about this elephant was that he was white. And then the master could have explained that all the little bits of truth they had experienced combined to create the whole truth of this beautiful elephant they were missing out on with all of their arguments. And that's the parable of the elephants. One I'm sure we can apply in many ways.
Soothing sound, supposedly. Okay, I left you at Christmas of 1969. I got home by Christmas of 70. And now we need to jump forward 20 years. I did the usual things people do. I got a job with the fire department, became a fireman, got married, bought a house, decided that I was not living up to my potential. I could be filthy rich. So I picked up the whole family and went to Colorado and became a contractor full-time. It took 10 years to beat it into me that that wasn't going to work. I wasn't going to have a retirement. So I joined the dark side. I got a job as an air traffic controller as the FAA. And believe me, to go from pilot to that is joining the dark side. Anyway, the only place that they were hiring was Alaska. So please don't throw me in that briar patch, but that's where I applied for the job. And sure enough, in 1990 we moved up to Alaska, had to get ourselves to Alaska. And then they would send me out to the bush, and if I was a good boy, I could come back into the city eventually. So 1990, middle of the summer, found us flying out to McGrath in a 737. McGrath had 737 daily service in those days. And if you're not familiar with McGrath, if you draw a line from Anchorage to Nome, it's about halfway. It is in the interior, and it is cold. So we lived in McGrath, which had a population around 500, 1/3 of which was going to the K through 12 school. It was a kind of a hub for some of the outlying villages, and a lot of the high school kids were being boarded with friends and family while they went to school there. Someone had organized a adult volleyball league, and it was co-ed, 3 men, 3 women on a team. And we played, of course, in the high school. High school was the center of everything there. Still is, I'm sure, as in most villages. The kids, my daughter included, I had, backing up a little bit, moved the family out to McGrath when my daughter was just entering high school, my son just entering junior high. And for some reason, my daughter loved it, my son hated it. Who knows? Anyway, she played volleyball before, and a lot of her friends played volleyball, and they wanted a high school team. So I talked with the teachers and the principal and said, kids would like a high school volleyball team. So he and I together, and with another teacher was interested, we started up a team. And again, it was co-ed. High school is normally all girls in high school volleyball. And we made their team co-ed as well, so they could play on a level footing with us in the adult league. Well, they ended up getting 2 teams, and they were having such a good time, and they were getting good, they wanted to have a tournament. So discussing it with some of their parents and the principal came up with the idea. He says, look, we got to offer these people something, a reason other than volleyball to come here. Fine. The Iditarod comes right down the main street of town every year. And a lot of these bush communities just don't get to see it. So that was our draw. We decided that would do it. Sure enough, we asked a bunch of surrounding villages, and we got plenty for a tournament. And then the really outlying one, the Ambler and the Nana, Chihuahua, traveled the furthest to come play. But I realized we had one element we hadn't worked out yet. We needed referees. It would be nice if we were going to have a tournament if somebody knew the rules. We had our own rules, and you can imagine what they're like. So one of the parents says, hey, UAA just hired a new volleyball coach. Maybe they would like to come out and see a little bit of Bush, Alaska. So we got a hold of them, and sure enough, we made this following offer. We said, you come and bring your husband out to McGrath, spend as long as you like. We will fly you out there free. We will put you up at somebody's house, and we'll feed you. And you get to see the volleyball. I mean, you get to see the Iditarod. However, the little catch is you're going to have to referee all of our volleyball games, And we kind of like you to give a clinic for the kids too, so maybe we can learn something out of this. They jumped all over it. They loved the idea. So she and her husband had played college volleyball, so he was good. They came out and first thing they did was have a clinic and teach everybody a bunch of new skills. That was great. Then we had our tournament. Went very smoothly. Everybody had a ball. Ambler won. McGrath really thought they were going to win that one, but no, Ambler won. And then we decided to have an adult game where the adults picked their own all-star team and played Ambler. And I'm not sure who won that last game. There was some debate, something about the refereeing. But that's really all there is to that story. It's just a slice of life in the bush. It was a lot of fun, and it was a one-off. We didn't do it again. I was only there 3 years, but we didn't do it again the next year, and then I left. So anyway, that's that one. Who's next?
This is a story about the Buddha, Shakyamuni Buddha, who lived in India. Now everybody knows and thinks that Shakyamuni Buddha, because he was enlightened and had gone through everything, that everybody loved him. And he had this really great, happy life after he attained enlightenment. But that wasn't true, because he was a human just like all of us. And just like anyone who has achieved something, he had a relative who was very jealous of him. It was a cousin named Devadatta. And Devadatta thought he should be honored as much as the Buddha. I mean, he was his cousin. And he had attended the teachings and learned some things and did some practices. But he wasn't the Buddha. He was jealous. But anyway, one day, the Buddha was traveling from one town to another town, and Devadatta had decided that he was going to kill his cousin. So he went and got an elephant and took it into the town behind the wall where he knew the Buddha was going to be walking past. And he gave this elephant alcohol and got the elephant drunk. And he had the elephant tied up, and he beat on the drunk elephant to make it angry. So now there was a drunk and angry elephant right next to the gate that the Buddha was going to walk past. And as Devadatta heard the crowd approaching walking with the Buddha, he untied the elephant, gave it one more whack, and opened the gate. And the elephant started running and storming and trumpeting down the street toward the Buddha and the crowd. And all the people with him ran away, except for Ananda, his faithful attendant. And the Buddha just stood there, being the Buddha, looking at the elephant with kindness, fearlessness, compassion. And it was so strong, the elephant stopped just inches from the Buddha. And then he bowed its head, and the Buddha patted him and said, "Don't worry, everything will be okay." And then he and the elephant and Ananda and all the people entered the town. And of course, no one knows where Devadatta was. And what eventually happened to him is another story for another time.
Slide down on this thing.